I can't believe this actually happened to me. Imagine flying back home after 3 months living it up in Spain, finally ready to sleep in your own bed again, and finding out your house is gone. Not like somebody robbed you, gone. Like someone literally sold your house while you were away, repainted it, changed the locks, moved in, the whole 9 yards. Yeah, that's what I walked into. Jet-lagged, dragging my dusty suitcase, and instantly knew something was off because my house looked almost too perfect, like a page out of a real estate magazine. And let me tell you, nothing in my life has ever looked like a magazine spread, so right away my stomach dropped. At first, I thought I was hallucinating from the red-eye flight, or maybe I got the street wrong. I checked the number on the mailbox 3 times, walked up the path, and there it was, somebody else's kid's tricycle on my lawn, a brand new welcome mat, even a little floral wreath on the front door. That wreath nearly sent me over the edge, you know what I mean? So I knock, trying to keep my cool, figuring maybe the HOA hired somebody to do maintenance, or maybe my cousin was staying over. But nope. This woman opens the door. She's got gum, she's got attitude, and she looks at me like I'm the intruder. "Can I help you, sir?" she says, like she's about to call the cops on me. Now, I'm not a confrontational guy, usually, but something in my voice cracked when I said, yeah, you can help me. You can tell me why you're living in my house." She barely blinked, calls for her husband, and this guy strolls out looking annoyed and tells me, straight-faced, that he bought the place from Karen, the HOA president. That's when my world tilted sideways. Karen, the woman who's... You know those moments when you're so mad you actually feel calm? That was me. I pulled out my phone and started recording, because at this point, I had a bad feeling where this was heading. Got them both on camera, nice and clear, saying Karen sold them the house. Then I stormed, right up to Karen's mansion down the block. My knock probably rattled her fancy door knocker. She answered in a silk robe, not a hair out of place, and all I could do was shove my phone in her face and say, "You sold my house." Care to explain? She didn't even blink. "Oh, I figured you'd abandoned it. Some of us thought you'd, passed away in Spain or something. The community couldn't just let the property sit empty. It wouldn't be fair to the neighborhood." That's the actual sentence she said to me, like it was the most reasonable thing in the world. Then she throws in, "And you left without getting an HOA travel permit. You know the rules." Now, I've lived in that neighborhood for 10 years, and I've never heard of a travel permit. I said, "Karen, you can't just invent rules out of thin air." She just shrugged. "All residents are supposed to inform us if they're leaving for an extended time. It's in the bylaws." That was her story, and she was sticking to it. Before I could even tear into her, the guy who bought my house showed up, and now he's... And that's when I pulled out the big guns. I called my lawyer, told him everything, sent him the video, the forged sales documents, even the locksmith's invoice for when Karen changed the locks weeks after I left. Turns out, not only did Karen forge my signature on the deed, but she also sold a bunch of my stuff, my grandfather's watch, my recliner, even the TV, right along with the house. There were receipts, and her name was right there. And Mike, the poor guy who bought my house, was out 300 grand and nearly as furious as I was. Suddenly, Karen was fighting a war on 2 fronts. Now, here's where it gets good. Mike's lawyer and my lawyer both team up. We subpoena Karen right in front of her house, camera rolling. She comes out in her morning robe, sees the envelope, and her face drops like she just realized her Wi-Fi's been cut off for life. She tries to act tough, shouting across the street, "This is harassment," and I just smiled and waved. "See you in court, Madam President." Word spread like wildfire. Neighbors started whispering. Folks who used to nod politely at her started giving her the side eye, and her little HOA club shrank to almost nothing. Overnight. It's funny how quickly loyalty evaporates when you get caught red-handed stealing somebody's house. Court day arrives, and you would have thought Karen was still running for president the way she strutted in, binder clutched to her chest. But when the judge asked for her defense, she came out swinging with, "He left the country without a travel permit." I wish I was making this up. Even the jury cracked a smile. My lawyer walked the court through every forged document, every fake invoice, every piece of evidence, and finally played the video where Karen basically admits she thought I was dead and took it upon herself to sell my place. The judge didn't waste time. Karen was found guilty on every count: fraud, forgery, criminal trespass, theft. She owed me $17,000 in legal fees, $50,000 for emotional distress, $100,000 in punitive damages, and Mike, the buyer, got a judgment for the full $300,000 he paid. Her face turned sheet white. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. But it didn't end there. The court seized her house, her car, her prized SUV with the HOA 1 vanity plate gone. The neighborhood got to watch the sheriff post a foreclosure notice on her front door. For once, all those people she used to bully for mailbox colors or grass length were grinning right along with me. I stood there, arms folded, finally feeling the kind of justice you think only happens in movies. Karen, the woman who ruled the block with a clipboard and a fake smile, was finally getting a taste of her own medicine. And honestly, it felt good. So, let me toss this out to you. Do you think justice was served? Would you ever trust an HOA again after a story like this? Or is this just the tip of the iceberg? I want to hear what you think down below. Drop your wildest HOA stories. Debate whether Karen got what she deserved. And let's see just how far this drama goes. Honestly, I thought that would be the end of it, you know? Karen gone. Her stuff hauled off. The neighborhood feeling lighter for the first time in years, like the whole street could finally exhale. But life's never that simple, is it? Turns out, when you kick over a hornet's nest, you don't always know what else is hiding in there. Because just as I was starting to move back into my house, still half packing, half celebrating, I got a letter. Not from Karen. She'd vanished, probably holed up at her sister's in Arizona, if the gossip was right. But from the HOA board itself, or what was left of it now that their queen was dethroned. The letter was stiff, almost apologetic, but not quite. Dear homeowner, due to recent events, the HOA is conducting a full audit of neighborhood operations. You get the idea, all corporate sounding, all trying to look official. I couldn't help but laugh. After everything Karen pulled, now they wanted to act like the grown-ups in the room. But I kept reading, and my smile faded. Pretty quick, because buried in all that polite nonsense was a line about pending violations. Yeah, that happened. Turns out, Karen's little fiefdom had been keeping tabs on people, quietly collecting fines, holding secret votes on rule changes, all off the record. The board wanted to meet. In person. In my living room. And just like that, my house, my own living room, which I'd barely settled back into, became ground zero for the next chapter of HOA madness. The new president, a nervous guy named Jeff with a clipboard and a handshake like a wet sponge, showed up first, then a couple of the older residents, folks I'd only seen waving from behind curtains. They sat on the edge of my couch like it might bite them. Jeff cleared his throat and said, "We know things got out of hand. The board wants to do things differently now." For a second, I almost felt bad for them. They looked like kids who'd crashed the family car and were hoping I wouldn't call their parents. But then Jeff started going through Karen's records, and holy hell, the stuff he found. Fake fines, double charges for pet violations, even a grass height monitoring fund that Karen invented and funneled money into her own account. One neighbor had paid over $1,000 for unregistered bird feeders. Another had been threatened with foreclosure over a missing porch light. The more we dug, the more it became clear. Karen hadn't just robbed me. She'd been bleeding the whole neighborhood for years. That's when old Mr. Dawson, the guy who lives across the street and never talks to anyone, slammed his fist on the table, nearly spilled his tea. "Enough," he said. "She stole from all of us. We need to get that money back." And for the first time, I saw my neighbors as people, not just faces behind hedges. Angry, embarrassed, but ready to stand up for themselves. The next weeks were a blur. Town hall meetings, lawyers, even a local reporter sniffing around. Turns out, our scandal was just juicy enough to make the news. I kept thinking, all I wanted was my old life back, my quiet mornings, my coffee in peace. Instead, I'm standing in front of the whole block, telling my story, watching heads nod as people realize they weren't alone in getting steamrolled by the HOA machine. But here's the twist. Remember Mike, the guy who bought my house? He didn't just disappear after the trial. He stuck around, started helping people file claims to get their money back, even organized a little HOA survivors cookout in the park. It was weird at first, hanging out with the guy who lived in my house, But somewhere along the line, we stopped being rivals and started being, I don't know, something closer to friends. By the end of summer, Karen was still a ghost. Nobody knew where she'd gone, but the stories kept swirling. Some said she'd started over under a new name, others that she'd lawyered up and was planning to sue us for defamation. Yeah, good luck with that. The HOA board dissolved itself, replaced by a volunteer group who actually listened, and slowly, the neighborhood turned back into a community. I started seeing people out on their porches again, real conversations, even a few block parties. Imagine that. I'd love to tell you that's where it ends, that justice got served. The good guys won, and everybody lived happily ever after. But, life's messier than that. Some folks never got all their money back, and some scars linger. Sometimes I still get twitchy when I hear the words neighborhood association. But here's what I know for sure. When people stand up, when you record, when you call things out for what they are, bullies lose. Eventually. So here's my question for you. Have you ever fought back against a bully and actually won? Or did your HOA horror story have a different ending? Let me know down in the comments. And while you're at it, tell me, would you ever trust your neighborhood with that much power again? Hit that like, hit subscribe, and tell your wildest story, because I'm starting to think I'm not the only one living in a soap opera around here.